All right, updates on the Peterbilt rebuild project. Really haven't put many videos on YouTube, but everybody keeps telling me that I need to put some of this stuff on YouTube. So this truck basically was a parts truck. I bought it for the engine, which we've rebuilt already, and I was going to junk it, and I decided to rebuild it. It was a short hood triaxle day cab tractor. Frame was pretty roached on it. The differentials were missing, the housings were there, the engine was there, the 18-speed transmission was in there. So I decided to keep it, decided to make something of it. It's soon ready to go for paint. We've got new frame rails in it. I did it myself. So it's got a heavy 1/2-inch single rail. You can see that with the glare of the windows. I did paint the inside of the rails before I put them in, just so there was paint on stuff before we sandblast and paint everything. So we rebuilt everything basically as it went back together, cleaned up the hangers, put new track rods in, put new track rods height here, new drive shaft, new differentials. We put 410 gears in the truck. I think it originally had 433s. Figure it'll probably be doing around 650 horse or so when I'm done with it. 410 gears is good for a local truck. It was a triaxle. I am moving the fuel tanks back. I'm getting rid of the third axle. I don't really need it. We can haul a lot of heavy stuff without having the extra axle. Got a couple cross members there that need to go in. Well, just one of them. One cross member is a little bit bent up there that needs to get replaced. So we're going to weld a hitch in the back. That needs to get done yet before it goes for paint. So that's one of the very next things on the agenda, is to weld that hitch on. What I was just doing here was checking frame width. So some of these center bolts on the cross members, like this is a cross member that needs to be replaced. They're really bent down here. Some of those center bolts did not get loosened up when the rail job got done. So going from a double to a single frame, it is still a little bit thinner compared to the two rails. Not a whole lot, it's very minimal, but enough to offset your rail width a little bit too much, so you have to adjust your cross members outward so you get your 34 outside width. Waiting for a new fifth wheel. We ordered a new Fontaine fifth wheel for it, unfortunately. Wanted a Holland, but doesn't look like they're going to be available for a while, and they were a little bit more, and they were months and months out. Fontaine is building a heavy fifth wheel plate, so we're doing something heavier than a standard FW35, which is a 150,000 pulling capacity and a 55,000 physical vertical load capacity. The Fontaine fifth wheel is I believe it's 180 pulling capacity and a 70,000 vertical load. So if I buy any larger excavators, a fifth wheel isn't going to break in half. We are putting a step here, and interestingly enough, this will be the hydraulic tank. So I have a guy making a new step to match a factory Peterbilt step, but it's going to be a hydraulic tank, not a toolbox. Got two new fuel tanks to go here. I think they're about 80-gallon tanks. So kind of keep the truck short and sweet. We're not going to have really long tanks on it. We're going to put short stacks on it when it's done. We are going to put new seats, new interior. All that stuff is going to be new as it goes back together. We needed to pull this interior out so we could cut huck bolts off for the grab handles and those light brackets. I don't know. It was really handy to have lights up there, but they look hideous. Even if I change the lights to something else, it still looks hideous. I think I might leave the wire hang out somewhere and make a bracket to go on your exhaust bracket, so you can hang lights back there if you want to, but not directly on the cab. Moving forward to the front here, here's your new frame rail. Most of this stuff I have not touched other than taking it apart to put the frame rail in. We'll probably throw some new springs in it, because I do remember when the engine was in the truck, it did sag pretty pretty good in the front end. You know, all them years of hard use. I probably should throw some new springs in this thing before we get it sandblasted and painted. So that'll probably get done as well. Pulled all the lights off the cab. I gotta clean up all this wiring before it gets blasted and painted. We're gonna paint the firewall as well. That battery box is not staying on there. I have a new one for it. That's just so you can get in and out of the cab without having to get out the ladder rope. But it's a pretty decent truck inside. I mean, obviously I tore it all out, but like all the gauges are in place, all the switches are where they belong. It's not all ratted up. So like the cab itself is actually a very solid cab. It's not full of corrosion. Like it wouldn't take much to take paint. Unlike the other truck outside, which is just a disaster. So here's the hood for this truck. It is a short hood. We did do a little big hood conversion on it. I'm not going to flip it down because I don't have anything behind it for it to stand on, and well, it's hard to do holding a phone. But we did use a factory aluminum Peterbilt extended hood grill surround for that little big hood. I have a stainless one here I bought. I did not like it. It was way too thin. I could just see the thing warping and breaking over time. So I spent the extra money and I bought the aluminum one. It looks more factory and it's much stronger. So it's going to be a little big hood, short day cab. I've seen guys do it to dump trucks. Some tractor trucks. I haven't seen too many short day cabs done. I did think about making an extended hood truck out of it, because you could do that by moving the cab back. But I thought, you know what, a little big hood day cab just kind of would look cool. So kind of picture it now. We're gonna make it look like a little version of this truck. So this is my 94 Peterbilt. We're going to paint that other truck orange like this one. And this truck impressively looks very nice in the camera. The paint's not the greatest. I mean, it's an old, you know, cheap paint job, but we're going to put a gray stripe on it and kind of make a little mini-me version of the bigger truck. And once that truck's on the road, then it's time to tear into this truck, because this truck needs some major love. We're going to cut the hole bigger in the cab, because it is a little hole. It's not a Unibuilt truck. It just missed being a Unibuilt truck. So we're going to put air ride on the back of the bunk, cut the hole bigger from the bunk and the cab. Looking for a new front axle for it. I'd really like to go 14.6 because I like to put heavier rears in the thing as well. Not sure if we're going to air ride or not. Everybody does air ride, so I don't know. We might do something different. But that's a project for another day. So this is the frame rail job. Basically pulled each rail out individually, used the inner rail as a template, laid the frame rail on the floor, and I tack welded the inner rail. I cut the flanges off the inner rail and I tack welded it to the outside of this rail, just in a couple spots. And then as I was working my way down, I would bolt the inner rail to this rail and use some clamps to keep it in place, so when you're drilling, it doesn't vibrate around or jump around on you. So that's how I did it. Everybody has different ways of doing it that seem to be the most logical way. That was the easy part. The drilling the holes took a while on the, you know, it's very hard frame rail, so it just does not drill very easily. The harder part was cutting this taper in the front. So you got to make sure you get that taper cut, and then you gotta cut your flange to match your old factory frame rail. So you have room for your engine to set in here. This one doesn't get cut very much, just a little bit here and a little bit there on the bottom, but the top one gets cut all the way back underneath the cab. So that was more stressful, because once you start cutting it, there's no going back. So once we get the thing, maybe before it goes out for paint, I'll take another video, and once it's back from paint, we'll do another video. So thanks, guys.